Once upon a time, I did something that was unexpected for me, and it might be something that you find quite interesting. I'd come back from living in America with my family, and we were in Somerset, and I'd long since kind of given up on what you might call organized religion, you know. Not that I want to be critical of it, but it wasn't for me. I always found that the spirit, or the life force, the life of heaven, the life of whatever you want to call it, is in me anyway. And it guides me, and it opens my eyes, and it shows me the way, and it gives me great insight into other people too. I don't really need anybody else to help me with that. It's just it's as much in you as it is in me. It's in everybody, but not all of us are kind of open to it, and not all of us have allowed that light to come out. Anyway, part of me wanting to increasingly find about who I am and what I'm really all about and find a directive in my life. I used to go out for a walk with my dog along the lanes and through the fields. And one of the things that kind of caught my attention for no apparent reason was like there would be hawks in the sky and buzzards and things. And of course, and there were owls at night. And I noticed that all they really did all day was kill things, you know. They'd catch mice and I don't know if you know, but they get them in their beak and they crack the mouse's skull and then they feed it to the young, or they eat it themselves. Or they capture other birds and eat them. And then I noticed the cat on the neighbour's farm would be around all day and basically slaughtered other animals, you know. Didn't just kill them. Sometimes we'd catch them and hurt the animal and let it go and think, don't know whether I want to kill it or not. Basically torturing the animal, you know. And the cat didn't have much of a conscience about this. Cat was fine, and everyone thought, nice little kitty cat, and stroked the cat, you know. And there it was. And I used to think to myself, well, if they can be so free, if those animals can be so free to just be themselves, why can't I be free to be myself? And it seems like it's only the humans that we're the ones who are so confused about who we are. You know, there's a part of us that we feel guilty about things, or we want to be more extravagant, and then we run into trouble, you know. We don't quite know what we want to be. And that was partly why I did what I did, and this is the thing I did, okay? I made a decision, right? I thought to myself, well, if there's a God, you're going to have to accept everything that I am. You know, if there's a God outside of me, or even if there's a God inside of me, whatever God is, you're going to have to accept what I'm going to say. And I made a decision to go down the lane with my dog in the early morning, through the fields, and I was going to say every single thing within me that I wanted, that I desired, that I thought was me, that I thought made me up, you know. And the reason why it worked so well was because I made sure nobody in the world was going to hear me. So I was completely free to say the most ridiculous things under the sun. So some of the things I said were quite profound, and some of them were quite, you know, beautiful. But a lot of the things are quite degrading as well, because there's a bit of naughtiness and a bit of madness in us all, you know. So all of this big mixture of things came out, and I just had this feeling, I just want to empty it all out, and I want to be as innocent as the hawk in the sky and as innocent as the cat on the farm, you know. And so I said all these things, and then what I did was I went home with the dog, fed the dog, got myself a cup of tea, piece of toast. My kids are still in bed, so I had time to myself, and I got some paper out, and then I tried to remember everything I'd said, so I made lists and lists and lists like this of all the things I said. But again, a very important thing about making this list was I only wrote the list in the knowledge that nobody on this earth would ever see what was written, because it would be embarrassing. I mean, there's sexual things in there, greedy things in there, crazy things in there, all sorts of things. And I wrote them all down without any fear whatsoever. There's probably about 3 pages of stuff, you know, so it took about 3 rounds of toast to get through that. Anyway, when I'd finished, we had a nice open fire in our cottage, so I put the 3 pieces of paper on the fire, lit them with a match, and off they went. Burn, gone. Got on with my day. Then the next day, or possibly the day after, in the morning, out with the dog again. Let's do it again. And so I emptied myself of everything. But it was easier to remember this time because I'd already done it before. Following the same pattern, went home, wrote everything down. It was easier to write them down because I could remember them better. and burnt them on the fire. I mean, my family were waking up and going about their business wondering, why are these ashes on the fire every morning in the shape of A4 pieces of paper? You know, Dad's gone mad. You know, I think I was a bit mad, actually. Anyway, the point about this was, as time went by, the more ridiculous things that I would think about started to fade away. And the petty things, you know, like, I don't know, like how many holidays you'd like to have, and, you know, which kind of car you'd like to drive or whatever, things like that. They're not really that important. And but some of the more profound things about who I am, what I'm about, what my mission is in this life, what my destiny is, they started to appear all the time. And they started to, what I would call, superimpose. So even though there's all this background stuff of all these, you know, I mean, in our life, if you just look around any house, you've got a certain type of fridge. Oh, I want a certain type of a fridge and a certain type of TV, and I want Sky TV, and I want to be able to do this. I want this dining room table. And even in one house, you can have thousands of things. But I would say that all those things are just background noise, okay? They're not really very important at all. But if you were a poet and you were supposed to express something profound through poetry, that should be more important than all those other things. Or if you're somebody who's a helper, somebody who's just born to help and serve people, and you get so much out of it, and the people you're helping get so much out of it, well, that needs to be at the forefront of your life. And so what I'd say happened to me during this process, I actually ended up, after probably a couple of months of doing this, I didn't know why I was doing it. Nobody told me to do it. Never read it in a book anywhere. It's just something I felt like doing. I could even avoid going out for the walk. So it might be raining, didn't go out. I could sit down, and I ended up being able to write down about 9 things that were really, really important about me. I mean, partly would be I was a speaker. Well, not just a speaker, an impactor. Wherever I've gone to speak to audiences and things, there's always been an impact. Not on everybody, but profound impact. Some things on some people. And it's not really about words. It's not because I'm clever. It's not because I'm the best speaker. There's just something about something in me that impacts something in them. I don't really understand it. But that's important because it changes people's lives. So what started to happen then was another interesting thing. And that was the list. Let's say it was about 9 things. And as I'd be walking around, I felt a challenge arise up from within me. We could say this is from the spirit or from consciousness, whatever it was, almost saying to me, well, what if there was only 7 things? You know, let's get it down to 7. It's kind of difficult. 9 doesn't, you'd think, well, it'd be easy to go from 9 to 7. But when they're your things, it's actually quite difficult. But I did get it down to 7. I thought, okay, if I had to choose 7, I'd go home and write the 7 things down. And then not long after that, it wanted 6 and then 5. Anyway, eventually we got down to 3. If you could only have 3 of these things, only have 3, what would they be? It's really difficult now. And I tell you why it's difficult, because I think it's your mind, you know. Your mind says, oh no, you're going to lose that. You can't lose that. But you're not losing it. What you're saying is it's just less important, you know. These 3 things are the most important. And lo and behold, I'm going down the lane and the challenge was there again. Okay, how about 2? You know, just 2 things. You know, what would be those 2 things? And that was very difficult, you know, because there are a number of things in my life that are profoundly important. But for some reason I felt challenged from heaven above or wherever it is. Let's get this down to, and in the end, 1 thing. Okay? Let's get it down to 1 thing. And you know, I got this thing down to 1 thing on a number of occasions, and every single time it was to be. And the first time I saw this was, if you can imagine a mountain, on a picture of a mountain goes up and then it's down like this, okay? But if you saw it from above, from the sky, and it had contour lines, at the very top it'd have a tiny little circle and a little bigger one, bigger and bigger and bigger. And you'd know by the numbers on the lines on a map that this is actually something that's growing up. It's a mountain. And I felt like heaven was saying to me, there's only room on the top of this mountain that you're seeing in your mind. 1 little circle, you can only have 1 thing in there. What's it going to be? And I said, well, it's to be. And I didn't know why I said that, to be. And then I thought, well, to be what? And then I realized, as time went by, what consciousness was, what awareness was. Awareness of being. I started to realize what enlightenment was. And one of the most important things that you can discover in your life, and that is awareness of being. Just the fact that you exist. When you come into awareness of being, you don't need the label of your name. You don't need the label of the school you went to, the house you live in, the job you do, how much money you've got. You're just aware that you exist. You're aware that you are there. Awareness of being is the very thing that consciousness is. It flows back and forth. And when you get into that realm of knowing that you simply exist, that's when you get to be. And then somebody might say, to be what? And the humans, we have to add something to that. What are you, a bus driver? You know, you're a nurse. What are you on top of that? Are you a father, a husband, a mother, a grandmother? You know, what are you? But when you come into knowing the awareness of being, there's nothing attached to it. And this is what people call in Buddhism the great emptiness. And when you find the great emptiness, you find absolute wonderful peace. And the reason you find wonderful peace is because when you come into the realm of being aware that you exist and you just settle in that one existence, that's the place where your mind cannot go. Now, the mind is just as bad or just as a nuisance or just as crazy as a hawk in the sky or a cat on the farm. It wants to get in the way of all these things about the peace that we can have by merely existing. We don't have to do anything. You don't have to achieve anything. Just be who you are. And that's why I arrived at to be. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the mind here, just at this point, because the mind is the very thing that is the greatest opposition in a human life to the peace that surpasses all understanding. There is a wonderful peace in meditation where you get away from your mind and there's no such thing as time, there's no such thing as worry, there's no such thing as your background, there's no such thing as forward. It's just the moment you're in, the now that you are in is a beautiful thing. But the mind doesn't like it. The mind wants your attention all the time and feeds off your attention and gets stronger and can take over you with the more attention that it can get. But one of the things I discovered about the mind is that just like a hawk in the sky or a cat on the farm, it doesn't really know why it does what it does. It's just hardwired to get your attention, to get you to worry, to get you to panic, twist truth, make your emotions jump like that. You know, you get people who are busy all day in a job and they do a fine job and they feel gratified by the job, even if it's kind of a stressful job. That's because they're using the mind to do the job. But that same person might be on the bus on the way home and start biting their nails. Like this. Worrying about this, worrying about that, worrying about something else. In fact, they're worrying about things that don't exist and then trying to find answers for the things that don't exist. And so the mind is like an animal in a way. We could have a courtroom, couldn't we? And we could say, okay, who have we got in here today? All right, we've got the cat. What's he been up to? Well, he's been killing things all day. Killed them yesterday as well. The cat sat there like that. You know. Well, what did you do that for? Well, I don't know. I don't know, really. You know, it's in my nature. All right, then. What about you, Mr. Hawk? What have you been up to? You know, flying above the sky. These little animals haven't got wings, you know. They haven't got much of a chance. You're coming down 120 mile an hour, boom, and you're taking them out. I mean, what do you do? Well, why, isn't there any other way to live? You know, can't you be a vegetarian or something? And he sort of stood there, you know. You can't find the cat guilty of being a cat. And you can't find a hawk guilty of being a hawk, because that's just what they're like. And by the same token, it's no good raging against your mind because your mind is robbing you of your peace. Your mind is driving you crazy. I mean, let's take this a little step more serious. Almost probably everybody who commits suicide or does something great harm to somebody else in this life, it all comes out of their mind. It doesn't make sense. People who've got all sorts of, like bulimia and eating disorders and things, it's all the mind mixed up. But what if we could step away from the mind, eh? What if we could just be? And so that's what this talk is really all about. The mind is hardwired to a nature, just like a cat, just like a hawk, just like a wolf. And it can't help doing what it does. It will make you worry, and it will make you stressed. It will make your emotions jump all over the place. It will make you feel insecure. It will make you paranoid. And it will make your life, even though your life should be better, maybe you've got a nice beautiful garden, a big house, lots of things going on, you spend most of your time worrying about things. I've met thousands of people like that. And that's because the mind can't help doing what it does. It's a wonderful servant, but it's a terrible master. So if your mind comes along, it will drive you mad. So when I had my experience of writing things down, the ultimate thing of all the things that I felt like I wanted in the end was to be. And I didn't realize at the time that to be is the ultimate experience you can actually have in this life. It is what you call enlightenment. It is what you call awareness of being. Just simply aware of being. No trouble, no time, no stress. And it's a better way to live. Thank you.